what have I just witnessed? I mean, like, seriously, what is going on? What have I just watched on TNA Impact this week? Holy testicle Tuesday. And, you know, obviously it's not Tuesday today, but it would have been when Impact was on. And talk about turn everything upside down. Whoa. So where to start? Yes, I'm reviewing TNA Impact Wrestling from the 19th of January 2016, and it was a chaotic one to say the least. And that's not to say I didn't enjoy it, but crikey, it was a bit mind-blowing. So, yeah, I mean, first of all, I've got to say to TNA, you need to still get the understanding of when to do these sort of big payoffs. And I didn't think tonight was the night. Last man standing match, EC3, Matt Hardy, culminating in what we just witnessed, what I just witnessed, should have been at a huge pay-per-view. This could have happened at a Bound for Glory. You know, that was the sort of, you know, occasion when something like this goes down. Not on another episode of Impact, just any old episode. It just seems bizarre to do. And again, it was like the whole show had elements of this. For example, Awesome Kong versus Gail Kim tonight. I was like, ugh, really? We've got to see this again? Because we've seen this so many times. And it was a championship match for the Knockouts title. And I'm thinking, really? Really? Kong versus, you know, Gail Kim one more time? And actually, the match was pretty damn good. The finish was really good. But again, why put it on another episode of Impact? Pay-per-view it. And then when it does happen and you have those good payoffs, people can say, that was a pretty good build and that was a good finish to, you know, to that storyline and a good payoff. And definitely, like I say, going towards the EC3 Matt Hardy feud, it was just needed to be on a pay-per-view, not this week's Impact. But nevertheless, let's get into that. Let's talk about that whole build-up, because when you know, I've just got round to reviewing this today, and it's Royal Rumble Sunday today. So everyone was tweeting about it. I'd seen possible spoilers of what went down, and I finally got to, you know, work out what I feel about this payoff and how this has gone down. And when I first heard about Matt Hardy being crowned the new TNA World Heavyweight Champion, I was kind of thinking to myself, ugh, not sure about that. And why did you waste all that time having EC3 win the World Title Series only to have him drop the belt, you know, just 2 weeks later? It seems ridiculous, to be honest with you. What a waste of time. And plus, EC3's undefeated streak comes to an end. However, the one positive in there is that he has still never, ever been pinned. So just remember that. And if EC3 remembers that, he's still got that to feed off. But, you know, the way that they did it, I thought it was done quite well. I mean, someone said to me on Twitter just a few weeks ago that, did I notice Rebby being in the ear of Matt Hardy and potentially a change of look, a change of style, a change of attitude? And I was like, no, not at all. But that person that tweeted me, fair play to you, because you were spot on, because Matt Hardy said it tonight. From that moment onwards, he had to change his ways. And that was the way that this episode of Impact played out. We had Jeff Hardy come out at the start of the show. He was interrupted. Well, he called out his brother, Matt, and he said he didn't feel right about the evening. Something didn't feel good. Matt was still quite cocky and arrogant that he was going to get the job done. You know, this risk of putting his career on the line in a last man standing match wouldn't matter. He was still going to be determined to do it, and eventually swayed Jeff Hardy round to his way of thinking. Ultimately, that led to Tyrus coming out. Tyrus has still got that opportunity as number one contender, and we'd seen the cracks appear between EC3 and Tyrus over last week and the week before that, with the basis that EC3's arrogance kind of knocking Tyrus a bit. We'd seen that kind of potential that something could go wrong, although I didn't want it to, because I think those two together are kind of work really well. It's kind of gold, but you kind of felt that they were working to something. They were planting the seed, TNA, that Tyrus was going to turn his back on EC3, and obviously tonight he did. So, you know, we had Tyrus come out. This seems to have all been a setup and a plan by Matt Hardy. The whole evening is basically around a master plan from Matt Hardy. He eliminates his brother from hitting the ring in the main event by the fact that he's issued Tyrus an offer to come out and, you know, do some damage to his brother. Jeff Hardy does. He has that match with Tyrus. He slips on the turnbuckle and then Tyrus capitalizes on the situation. Jeff Hardy wins via a DQ. However, after Matt Hardy visits his locker room after the match and kind of says, "I'll be fine tonight, Jeff. You need to get to the hospital. You need to sort your knee out." After that, Jeff leaves the arena. And obviously, if Jeff Hardy had been in the back at the time when all the shenanigans were going on in that world title match, you would have thought that Jeff would have come out and pulled his brother up and said, "What the hell are you doing? Why are you turning your back on the fans?" So eliminating Jeff Hardy from the situation was a big key factor for this match. And, you know, it kind of worked quite well. Watching it play out throughout the evening, it was done nicely, and it built to this matchup where, again, Ethan Carter feels like to me that he's lost that kind of cowardly side and he's willing to stand and go toe to toe, almost traits of a babyface. So TNA were quite subtle with the way that they were dropping hints that EC3 was going to maybe reverse roles with Matt Hardy. But I still couldn't quite believe that they were going down this route so soon, because EC3 for me is just an amazing heel. So why would you want to turn him? Why would you want to do that? Something I still can't quite put my finger on. And I'm even more concerned because I'm going to TNA at Wembley Arena, next week. And after the ending of the match, which I've just watched, the Last Man Standing match, is Ethan Carter even going to be on the tour? That's a worry for me. But, nevertheless, it led to this match. It was a good match. The Last Man Standing match was a good match. It was too good for this episode of Impact. In fact, this episode of Impact didn't deserve this matchup. And, they had tables, they had chairs, and then ultimately Matt was beginning to get desperate. And, the commentary team were like trying to sell it that, he was being a complete arsehole, but not really. Career's on the line. You want to pull it off. You want to make sure that your career isn't sacrificed at the hands of EC3. So why not pull out all the stops? So he low blows EC3. Then he, puts him for a twist of fate through the table. And then he goes and gets the hammer from his wife and tries to take him out with that. And, at points I was thinking maybe they're overdoing this here with the attacks and the onslaught on EC3. It was almost like, when does Ethan Carter get involved in this match? Because it didn't feel like for me that Ethan Carter was showing any heel traits at all. But EC3 got back in it. He hit a low blow. He hit the 1%er. And, the match continued to unfold. And then Tyrus comes down. And that's the ultimate payoff. Because the crowd are already turning. They're beginning to dislike Matt Hardy more with his heelish tactics. And then, old Tyrus the Virus attacks EC3, and then you fully realise the situation at hand. It's a master plan from Matt Hardy to become the TNA World Heavyweight Champion, and subsequently EC3 is defeated for the first time. So, people had been saying to me that they'd made a massive mistake in doing this, but I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel about it, but I kind of think Matt Hardy is a good heel. Matt Hardy is a very good heel. I think he did a heel stint when he was in Ring of Honor. I remember some of his awesome promos when people were calling him Fat Hardy, and he had the little notes and he'd go through. All that stuff was really cool. So if we can get that version of Matt, that would be awesome. My only concern is that people had told me that Matt was leaving TNA soon. So why would you take that risk and give him the belt? Now I don't know if that's true, but if it is, then I wouldn't be putting my championship belt on Matt Hardy at this point in time. And, I quite like the fact that now we've got Big Money Matt in TNA, and his reign's going to be interesting, but what do they do with EC3 here? Because I don't want to see EC3 be a fully fledged babyface. I think EC3 needs to keep on his course of being a heel, but a heel that's over with the fans. He already was over, and you could see from that match, it was a 50-50 split. In fact, I'd say that more of the crowd were on EC3's side. So, you know, with that being the case, I don't think it's a big deal that they did that. It's more of a big deal that they made him lose, because after he's beaten so many guys, to lose that streak on a regular episode of Impact, for me, just didn't work. You know, save it for the pay-per-view, because it would have been more shocking if that was your big payoff. But nevertheless, we have a new TNA World Heavyweight Champion, and then at the end, you know, the concerto as such, the icing on the cake, the final nail in EC3's coffin. Does that mean he's on the sidelines now? Is he injured? Because that's kind of pissed me off, because I'm going to TNA next week. So, yeah, that sucks. But yeah, he looks like he's out, and we could be angling towards, at some point, Jeff Hardy versus Matt Hardy. So how do you feel about that? Interesting, but... So, my head's still getting it all into gear. Was it good or was it bad? I'm not sure. You got to let me know by the comment section below what you thought of this massive twist, and should they have given it away for free? Because I think definitely not. Now let's talk about some other things quickly for what else happened on Impact this week. And as I said, we had Gail Kim versus Awesome Kong. Another really good match, really solid match. Had the dollhouse interfering. Again, decent match. Just should have been on a pay-per-view. Enough said. You know, build your storylines longer, TNA. Get to a pay-per-view. Have your payoff. And then you can continue on from that. They just don't seem to get it. We had Beer Money come out in their first tag team match against Eli Drake and the man, Jesse Goddard. It was alright. It was nothing special. I'm still not quite sold on the whole Beer Money reunion yet. I think they need to get... I would have liked to seen actually the Wolves just come out and interrupt Beer Money and already kick that feud into gear. But I guess the Feast and Fired is back next week. So we'll probably get them getting the tag team briefcases, and the feud will build from there. So yeah, that's likely to happen. So give or take a week or two, and we'll probably get the Wolves versus Beer Money very shortly. Again, hold it for your pay-per-view. We had Kurt Angle's farewell tour. The next opponent for him is Bobby Lashley. And that's cool, because I saw that match when I was at Wembley last year. Kurt Angle defeated Bobby Lashley for the TNA World Heavyweight Championship. And it was a very good match. So again, I reckon we'll get another 5-star match to match the Drew Galloway match that Kurt Angle had. So if they keep doing these, I'll be very happy. It'll be interesting to see who the final person will be to face Kurt Angle. And I like the interaction that Angle and Lashley had. It was really respectful. And right at the end, I think, you know, the competitive side of Lashley comes through, where he says he's going to beat Kurt Angle's ass. So, nice. Cool. We saw The Miracle, Mike Bennett, actually have his debut on Impact. It was alright. I mean, they bill him like he's $1 million. Maria does a good job of introducing him. I think that she adds an extra layer to his character. But the problem with The Miracle is he don't look like a miracle. Not in terms of his physical look, but his attire, his tights are atrocious. They could have done something a bit better with him, because when he talks about, you know, producing multiple miracles and all this sort of stuff, and people saying, yes, I do, I just say, no, I don't. Because until we get him looking in a way that you want to, you know, kind of respect this miracle and understand what that means, I just don't get it. So I like The Miracle Mike Bennett with his theme music, the way he's built, the way he's brought out, but in terms of his in-ring attire, maybe jazz it up a bit and make him a bit more flashy or something like that. That could work. And who the hell was he facing? Who is Pepper Potts? I mean, what's his name? Was it... No, it isn't Pepper Potts. It's Pepper Parks. Because when I first heard Pepper Potts, I thought to myself, well, that's Iron Man, isn't it? So, yeah, didn't get that at all. But he's some jobber, I guess. Never mind. But anyway, the Miracle Mike Bennett needs a bit more work. But yeah, they were the extra bits to touch on. But obviously the whole evening was around Matt Hardy becoming world champion. I'm still trying to come to terms with it because it really is a massive change. Ethan Carter potentially now a babyface. Matt Hardy the biggest heel in the company. All in one night of Impact. Wah wah wee wah. Go figure. So guys, let me know over the comment section below what you thought of TNA Impact from the 19th of January 2016. Was it a hit, a miss, or a maybe? I'm not sure if I'm going to give it a Delzinski approved. A Delzinski maybe, because we got to wait and see how this story plans out. So that's the way I'm looking at it. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this review. Let me know your views on what's gone down on this week's Impact. And all that's left to be said is please rate, comment, and subscribe. This is Delzinski signing out.